A good day to Miss Umu Ephelia and all of my peers. Me and my group mates would like to present on the topic about sexual harassment that is based within Malaysia. Before we jump right into it, let me introduce the members of our group. First and foremost, hi, I'm Jay.
My name is Darshika.
My name is Deanna.
Hi, I'm Prettikha.
Hi, I'm Trilochana.
Hi, I'm Asyiqeen.
And hi, my name is Cassandra Rose. Today we will be talking about sexual harassment, a very controversial topic that's spoken all around the globe, from the urban part of the city to the rural part of the earth. So, what is exactly sexual harassment, you may ask? Sexual harassment is an inappropriate behavior that's done towards an individual where they might feel discomfort, and also it might trigger fear. They might feel violated, intimidated by a stranger, and also many other negative feelings and emotions can be triggered by this, where it may impact an individual's mental health for a long term and cause trauma. Moving on to the forms of sexual harassment. There are many forms of sexual harassment. Majorly, there are three. Firstly, physical touch. Obviously, nobody likes to be touched by a random stranger in public or when you're alone. That's the most creepiest thing that can ever happen to you. Next will be verbal remark. Lastly, it will be via social media. Yes, sexual harassment can be done via social media these days. Moving on, where can actually sexual harassment happen? Sexual harassment can be done anywhere, anytime, and by anyone. It can be done even in your own house, while you're walking down the street, your workplace, educational institutes such as universities, schools, kindergartens, and also hospitals. It can be done anywhere. Lastly, we are going to look at why is it important for each and every individual to know what is sexual harassment exactly. Each and every individual, it's actually a crucial thing for them to know what is sexual harassment so they can prevent from being a victim of sexual harassment, or even if it has happened to them, they will know what to do, where to go, whom to speak. Objective of this presentation are to understand why sexual harassment happens by looking at its causes such as power and cultural issues, to discuss its effect on mental health like stress and emotional pain, and to explore ways to stop it through awareness, rules, and community support. So that's all from my side. We're going to move on to the causes. I'm going to pass it to Darshika.
And next, I will be discussing the causes of sexual harassment, which remains to be the significant issue in many working places, educational institutions, and public spaces. So there are three causes of sexual harassment, which is gender equality, power imbalance, and lack of accountability. So first is gender equality. Entrenched attitudes about gender roles and power dynamics plays a huge role in sexual harassment. In many societies, men are often perceived as dominant figures, leading to the normalization of harassment. For an example, in many working places, women may not be taken seriously when they report harassment due to these deep-rooted biases. As I said, men are the dominant figures for many institutions and working places. So next would be power imbalance. When one gender holds more power, it can lead to entitlement and objectification. For an example, the media often reinforces this by portraying women as object of male pleasure. For instance, in many entertainment industries, women are frequently hypersexualized, which influences on how they should be treated in their own real life. And finally, it would be lack of accountability. When perpetrators are not held responsible, it creates a culture of silence and fears. A common example is when companies prioritize their reputation over taking action, allowing harassment to continue unchecked. Just as I said, men are the dominant figures for many institutions and working places. So due to that, they would not want to spoil the reputation of the companies. So this is how they continue to just being unchecked, and that's where it leads to more further victimism. So these are the causes of sexual harassment. By promoting gender equality, addressing power imbalances, and ensuring accountability, we can create a safer and more respectful environment for everyone. So next, I will be passing it to Trilochana.
There are three types of impacts, which are psychological and physical effects on the victims, and impacts on organizations as well as societal consequences and gender inequality. As for the psychological effects, it's always the anxiety, depression, PTSD, diminished self-confidence, and also feelings of shame and self-blame. As for the physical health consequences, it's the sleep disturbance, stress-related ailments, and also decreased overall well-being. As for the organizational impacts, such as decreased productivity, eroded employee of morale and trust, increased turnover costs, and in that, recruitment expenses, training new employees, and also lost institutional knowledge. And lastly, potential legal and reputational damage. For my last point, which is societal impacts, is the reinforcement of gender inequality, limited female participation in economic, political, and social spheres, persistent power imbalances, barriers to national development goals, and also economic costs through lost productivity of human potential. I'd like to pass it to Prettikha to talk about the solutions.
Now have a look on this solution. The first point is legal and policy measures. First, we must strengthen and enforce law to ensure accountability. Government needs to implement clear policies with strict consequences for the offenders. It is also crucial to protect the victim from retaliation so they feel safe reporting misconduct. Without strong legal backing, justice is out of reach for many survivors. The second point is reporting and support system. We need accessible and confidential reporting system in workplaces, schools, and public spaces. Many victims stay silent due to fear and lack of support. Organizations should provide counseling, legal aid, and resources, especially for the vulnerable groups. A strong support system encourages the victim to come forward and seek justice. The third point is awareness and education. Education is a key tool in preventing harassment. School and workplace should mandate training on respect, consent, and gender sensitivity. The media also plays a role as a consent that objectifies individuals or reinform harmful stereotypes must be challenged. When people are informed, they are less likely to tolerate harassment. The fourth point is culture change and allyship. Sexual harassment requires a shift in culture. Bystander intervention is powerful because when people speak up against misconduct, it discourages the perpetrators. A zero-tolerance approach must be adopted in all sectors, and individuals should feel empowered to stand up for what's right. Change starts with collective action. The last point is workplace and leadership equality. Organizations must close gender gaps in leadership. Equal opportunities help to create a fair and inclusive environment. When leadership is diverse, policies become more inclusive and workplace cultures improve. A long-term commitment from all sectors is essential to building a society based on respect, safety, and equality. Thank you. That's all from me. Now I pass to Asyiqeen.
Thank you, Prettikha. Now let's dive into the statistics of sexual harassment in Malaysia. In the year of 2021, Malaysia has recorded 506 cases of sexual harassment, where female victims are in 420 to 430 cases and male victims are in 82 cases a year. Although in the year of 2021, this number of cases has slightly decreased to 477 cases a year, where female victims are in 380 to 405 cases a year, and male victims are 95 cases. However, people thought that this number of cases will decrease more throughout the next year, but sadly, these cases has been increased again in the year of 2023, reaching to
522 cases, where female victims are in 444 cases a year and male victims are 135 cases a year. This data reveals that women make up the majority of victims with over 85% of the cases. But despite that, there has been a steady rise in the male victims too, where people mostly almost to forget that male can be victims of sexual harassment too. On the other hand, the study shows that 85% of this number of cases of sexual harassment in Malaysia happens at the workplace. The rest, it could be at the public and home too, showing this highlight that how dangerous and serious these cases can be. Thank you. That's all from me. Now I'm passing to my friend Jayshri.
Thank you, Asyiqeen. Now I'll be talking about the 6 journals that we've researched upon. Okay, this is the first journal. It's about how victims often remain silent, as it highlights on the many victims, especially women and LGBTQ plus individuals, that do not report harassment due to their fear, embarrassment, and weak legal protections. And moving on, this is the second journal. It's about the lack of awareness and ineffective grievance mechanisms. This journal discusses on the awareness levels among employees and employers that are actually considered to be low, and the existing complaint systems fail to provide proper remedies. Okay, now moving on to the third journal. This journal is about how weak is the enforcement in educational institutions are. This journal would discuss on how the students and staff face harassment due to unclear policies and poor enforcement by, sadly, the authorities itself. And moving on, this is the fourth journal. It's about LGBTQ plus individuals that face quite an unnecessary additional challenges. This highlights on how LGBTQ plus individuals face discrimination and have limited legal avenues for protection. Alright, now moving on to the fifth journal. This journal is about legal challenges in sexual harassment cases. This one discusses upon how courts may accept claims without strong evidence while also considering power imbalances and delayed reporting in unfair dismissal cases. Alright, this is the last journal, which accentuates on the need for stronger policies and enforcement, as the journal emphasizes the need for clearer policies, better enforcement, and comprehensive education to prevent all this harassment. Now, I'll leave the floor open to Deanna.
Now, we are going to move on to the social science theory. As a group, we picked the feminist theory. This theory focuses on women's experiences and the challenges that they face in a male-dominated perspective. In this theory, we examine gender roles, discrimination, and patriarchy. We are going to look through 4 different points of view. The first point is power and control. Harassment is not just about the fact that they feel attracted to one person, it is about feeling in control and empowered. This is used to intimidate women, especially in male-dominated spaces. Women in leadership roles and male in industry face more and more of these sort of harassment. Next, we are going to move on to law and policies. This focuses on legal protection for your employees. It is very important that they have these sort of policies and legal protection for employees and ensure that whoever does the harassment takes accountability. Movements like #MeToo highlights the legal action and ensures that the public is aware of this sort of issue. Next, we're going to move on to the point developed by Kimberly Crenshaw. Not all experiences are the same, which is very true. Factors like your race, your class, your sexual orientation can face the sort of harassment that you have. For example, a black woman faces racial sexism, and an Indian woman and a Chinese woman can face sexual harassment in different matter, but all of it is not the same, but is equally as important. Next, we're going to move to economic power and harassment. Harassment definitely links to economic inequality. For example, a woman as a waitress will definitely bear sexual harassment just to keep her job, which is a classic example of how women in low-paying jobs are more vulnerable to sexual harassment. So it's very important that we as a society, we as a country, the government ensures that there are fair wages for workers to ensure that they are protected in this country. In conclusion, we understand that sexual harassment is never random. It is systematic. Solutions must address law, power, intersectionality, and economics. Feminist perspectives offer a very different but complementary approach. Real changes definitely requires legal, cultural, and economic shift. That is it for my part. I'm going to pass on to Jayshri.
Alright, so I'll be talking about our opinion as a group. Okay, so we have discussed and reflected on this issue, which is sexual harassment, and we do have some of our opinion on it. So first off, we find that sexual harassment persists despite legal frameworks and awareness campaigns, as laws and policies do exist, but societal attitudes and power imbalances continue to enable this harassment. Alright, so secondly, the widespread impact of harassment. Well, it affects not just individuals, by the way, but also workplaces, educational institutions, and communities, fostering immense amount of fear and promotes inequality. Thirdly, the desperate need for a systemic change. This is because legal action alone is insufficient, as broader changes, including education, cultural shifts, and accountability, are necessary. Alright, and last but not least, a call for awareness and advocacy. Since this report highlights, accentuates even, the urgency of addressing harassment and emphasizing collective responsibility in creating change. In conclusion, sexual harassment remains a serious issue in schools, workplaces, and even daily life. Despite legal protection, it persists due to power imbalances, outdated norms, and lack of accountability. Consequently, it harms victims' well-being as well, disrupting workplaces and weakens communities. So, therefore, addressing this issue requires stronger laws, real consequences for perpetrators, and open discussion on respect and consent. Furthermore, survivors must receive proper support, and harmful attitudes that normalize harassment should be actively challenged. Ultimately, true change goes beyond policies, because it requires shifting mindsets to foster a culture of safety, dignity, and respect for everyone. And with that, we bid Miss Ophelia and everyone a big thank you for listening to us, and a good day. Thank you.